Hello and welcome to Life.EV, a podcast that dives into exploring values. I'm your host Ajit Panicker and lead an air conditioning company Nova and Pureblu, a tech startup in the air conditioning domain. Every Saturday at 11 a.m., we join you for conversations that go beyond business growth, focusing on the values that fuel it. Let's embark on a journey to uncover our true purpose and how we can grow by enriching our lives. Welcome to Life.EV, where we explore values in life and business. And we welcome Vivek. Hi, Vivek. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ajit. How are you doing?
Absolutely good, my friend. Vivek Asrani is the driving force behind Camo Fastener Company, a trailblazing company in the industrial fastener sector. What sets Vivek apart is his deep engagement with the exploration of values. It's been over 4 years he has dedicatedly penned his reflections on this topic every week. These insightful thoughts are accessible on his website, vivekasrani.com. Additionally, Vivek has authored the book One Day at a Time, Reflections from Times of Silence, which further delves into his journey and insights. This thought provoking read is available on Amazon and his website, offering readers a chance to engage with his profound understanding of values and their role in both personal and professional lives. In today's episode of Life.EV, we're delving into a topic which is learning to unlearn. Vivek, let's get cracking on this one.
I think this is something which partly technology, partly the new generation, partly the fast pace of change that we see in everything around us is forcing us to do. That is a lot of things that we have lived with in the past and that we know. Many of them, I'm not saying all of them because many of them need to stay intact, but many things, the way we do things, we need to unlearn and relearn. A simple example would be that when all of us started using the computers, we were learning a particular language, which today when we look back is like so obsolete, right? But we had to then unlearn that and learn something different. So that basically is the broad principle. Now, unlearning, Ajit, comes from, I would say, three things. One is evaluating where we are in life, where we want to go, and to some extent, what is holding us back and what is going to take us forward. And if we find ourselves inadequate or lacking in something, you know, moving then to the second point, which is being honest with ourselves to say, am I honestly changing with the changing environment, or am I being stubborn, obstinate, and sometimes dogmatic about doing things in a particular way just because that's the way me or my family or my business has always been doing it, and that is the only thing which is the right way to do it? So these are the two things to start with. One is evaluating and second is being honest, and the third is being open to change, is recognizing that just because something is different doesn't necessarily mean it is wrong. It just means that it's a very new or a different way of doing something. So that's where the unlearning comes from. Where the unlearning actually gets blocked internally, Ajit, is again with three things. One is our ego. When we refuse to change because we then hold on to our position to say, I am right, and the way I've been doing things is right. Because very often we feel that if we change, it's also a expression of defeat or admission that the way I was doing something was wrong. So a lot of times our ego comes in the way. And sometimes we are told to do something differently and we don't do it differently just because we are being told. And now that you've told me to do it differently, I will not do it differently. Right? So that's again ego, manifesting itself. So one is ego. Second is fear. Because when you're unlearning the known, you're learning the unknown and moving from the known to the unknown, and the unknown is always in the realm of uncertainty, and there's always a bit of anxiety and fear attached to it. So that fear very often holds us back. And the third is a lot of prejudices that we've grown up with. And these kind of get ingrained and encrusted in our thinking patterns, which sometimes consciously, but very often subconsciously and unconsciously, we don't even realize. And therefore, when we are challenged in a discussion where some of our fundamental beliefs are questioned, we get very uncomfortable, even if it's with friends or people we've known for a long time and are comfortable with otherwise. We just feel uncomfortable. We get a little rattled, we get a little excited and emotional because the core which we believe in is getting questioned, right? So many a times it's our prejudices that also prevent us from unlearning. And unlearning and relearning, to put it very simply, is like if you have stale water in a glass, you have to first drain that out before fresh water can be poured in. So that's broadly the principle, that we need to first unlearn before we can relearn.
That also comes to a mindset issue, right? Now, one of the questions that I've always wondered is, you know, even though these concepts are very clear, most of us don't do it. You know, yeah, I understand it. Now, when you heard Vivek speak, I'm sure half of us have said, yeah, I'm aware of this. So this comes to the next question. Why is it that some people don't actually follow it? Or let me reframe it and say this: what's the kind of mindset that you require when you have to when you require to unlearn?
Great question. Let me borrow from a paragraph in my reflection for that question, Ajit. The last paragraph, which reads: when we speak less and listen more, react less and reflect more, we will learn to unlearn. It is only then will we realize the principle that will truly transform us. What is right, let's keep it right. What is wrong, let's set it right. When we listen more and when we reflect more. That, to my mind, are the cornerstones of the question you asked, the mindset that is required to unlearn. When we speak, okay, and I'm guilty of doing more of this than most people, but when we speak, we're all stating what we already know. But when I listen to you, I'm actually getting the benefit of knowing something which I don't know. But just listening will give me information. If I want to convert that information into my knowledge and conviction, I need to then reflect upon this, internalize this, experiment with it in small or big ways, and then make it my own. So, listening and reflecting are the two cornerstones for any change that we want to bring about.
Very interesting. And we have a lot of business entrepreneurs, or people who are business owners who follow us on our episode, and this comes to a question as to: does unlearning contribute to innovation and adaptability in a business setting? Is that true, or what's your take on that?
It absolutely does. And I think there are enough examples out there. You know, I would say there's unlearning at two levels, Ajit, or learning at two levels. One is what's going on outside, the outside change that's happening. So if there's a new software out there in the market, if there is a new technology out there, we adapt it. So we're learning something new. So that's still the easy part. The challenge is shifting from what we're already doing and saying, no, no, yes, that technology might be out there, that software may be out there, there might be a new way of doing things, but the way we've traditionally done it, works for us, makes a lot of sense, and therefore we don't want to change. I think the resistance to change is the bigger stumbling block over here. So again, two things. One is we have to start off by believing that there is a better way, which I don't know. The problem with most of us as entrepreneurs is that we start with a fundamental paradigm, even though we don't admit it in public and we don't say it, but somewhere deep down, it's like, boss, I know, okay?
True.
Uh, I know what I'm doing. I know my business. I'm happy to listen to you and I'm happy to also pick up some things from you. But basically, I know what I'm doing and I know how we should be running our business because my grandfather did it that way. My father did it. I'm doing it. Of course, I'm doing a much better job than he did. And he did a better job than he did. The problem is we start off with that. What we forget is a fundamental principle. We don't know what we don't know. There are certain things we don't know which we are aware of, which we say, hey, listen, there's this technology and I don't know about this. There's a new way of doing something I don't know about this. There's digital marketing, SEO, I don't know about this. There's e-com, how do I play that space? I don't know. So certain things we know that we are unaware of. But there is a whole aspect of life where we don't know what we don't know. That is the trigger in the whole unlearning and relearning process to say, listen, I'm entering this cave, okay? I don't know what treasure I'm going to find here, but I am willing to enter. So that is the first inner innovation, discovery, exploration, excitement, which has to be there. If that is not there, there is no chance of change. Second is recognizing that there is an outer change and an inner change, and they're both happening simultaneously. Sometimes the outer change is easier to adapt to because we have a lot of support systems, right? We have good CFOs, we have good IT people, good technical people, marketing people. They adapt to the new systems. We get younger people to enter the system. That's great. But what about the inner change that is required to support all that outer change? And that is where, and I go back to the first part of our discussion, the ego, the fear, and our prejudices. We have to work on that if we have to unleash the creativity, innovation, which you're talking about in our businesses. So, what's true for our personal life, Ajit, is very true and as true for our business lives as well.
Yeah. In fact, I must share some of the experience that I've had while being in the business when it comes to learning to unlearn. You were talking about the prejudice that we have, that I already know about everything. And there's a lot of changes that's happening around the world. And you constantly sit down and think that, listen, my business is doing well. Nothing's happening.
Hmm.
You're aware, I've been doing these courses and I've been sharing these knowledge about artificial intelligence and how it's connected to small businesses. you
Hmm.
know and I want to share some of my experiences I've done about 20-25 such sessions across for various forums,
Hmm.
and these are all small businesses. Now, Vivek, what happens is everybody comes and says, artificial intelligence, that's not for us here. I mean, we're small businesses, we're doing very well, we've grown, like how we said, it's not for us. It's for somebody else. It's for somebody. It's for the multinational companies. It's for these young kids. They are all doing it because that's the realm of our information that we have. And I want to take back to, and the best way to look at the future is to go back into history. Now, there are two instances in history where it becomes relevant when we are talking about learning to unlearn. Way back, if you look at when the cars were invented, right? It's fantastic. You must read the news and history around it. What was the topic that was discussed? One, it was for the rich. Second, you need fuel and we don't know where to get it from. Third, you need a road, which we don't have. Fourth, if this damn thing breaks down, what are you going to do about it? Correct? How are you going to walk back? I mean, how are you going to do it? So, this is a fancy thing that will not exist. And who spoke about it? The guys who were carriage owners. That was the primary mode of transportation. Refuse to accept, refuse to unlearn, refuse to see what's happening. What happened to business? Just got wiped out, completely wiped out. It's those questions were relevant at that time, but because people refused to see it and refused to unlearn and see the change coming in, it impacted the business. That's the same thing with artificial intelligence, which is the new age thing, which is actually changing things completely. The other aspect of the whole business is where you have people at the extreme end when they see the change. And what is
Hmm.
that? Oh my God, everything is going to collapse. You
Hmm.
know, uh, it's a dead end. And again,
Hmm.
there's a very interesting history if you go back, and this I can get it from the Indian context. I mean, you and I will understand when the
Hmm.
government of India is trying to introduce computers into the governance. You know
Hmm.
what happened? All the employees went on strike. All the employees, all of them went on strike, and their
Hmm.
whole thing was, no, no, this is not acceptable. It will take our jobs away. And where are we today? Every one of them uses a smartphone, which is 100 times more powerful when the with the computer that they took. So, this whole learning to unlearn is something that most of us need to live by constantly. And
Yeah.
that's one of my big takeaways, because when you're in business, there's so much happening around, and I completely agree with you with the fact that when you said, we come from a thing where that we know everything. The truth is we don't know what we don't know, and that's where the pothole lies. And
Yeah.
this also brings me a question, that once we realize these things, how do we as business owners encourage a culture of unlearning within our teams and our organizations? Because that's how that culture starts, right? I begin
Yeah.
to believe in the concept of learning and unlearning, but how do you actually share this within your teams and organization? What are your takes on that?
So, Ajit, the culture flows top down. The communication from us, the words we use, the messaging in our meetings, to my mind, is critical. And I'll give you two examples. I remember, and this conversation was about maybe about 20 years back. Uh, Somebody asked me that, are you guys using your computer systems for your accounting? And 2004. So it might have been maybe a little before that, might have still been in 2000 or something, right? And I remember saying, no, we're not using that because we have a very good, robust manual system. And my belief is, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Okay. That was my thinking about 25 years back. So that was one thing. Second is, uh, command and control was what I was seeing around me in the way businesses were being run by and large. Now, cut to current date. Today, when we are sitting for meetings, my messaging is, just because it isn't broken doesn't mean we don't have to look for a better way. So we are constantly cannibalizing, consciously setting and breaking things internally so that we can build something bigger and better around it, as a preemptive rather than as a corrective. So we are becoming more innovative rather than reactive. And therefore, today, if we are market leaders in our space, I think one of the reasons is that that has happened. But where has that also come from is the messaging in our small meetings to say, guys, okay, this is going great. How do we disrupt ourselves before the market disrupts us?
Perfect.
The second is, let's talk about work from home. A lot of my own managers, was saying, look, are we doing the right thing by allowing people this flexibility? There could be misuse and all the obvious reasons of, some of the negatives of work from home. And I took the trouble of walking them through why flexibility is important, why trust is important, why that balance is critical, what it takes for us to attract a certain level of talent, and why deliverables in any case should not get compromised. And therefore, today, their buy in is as strong, if not stronger, than mine. So, to answer your question, now both these things in terms of innovation and culture and people, now these are the two big things most organizations struggle with, right? Innovation and people issues. We've been able to, in our own small way, bring it down to the team level only because of the communication in our leadership and managerial meetings.
Amazing. Yeah, and I think that's a big takeaway for business owners. If something's just going fine and you want to take that approach that let's not disturb it, that's complacency. That's the beginning of complacency. You need to actually, sometimes, even if it's going good, you need to ask that questions: can I disrupt it, or what will disrupt it? Awesome. So that was a great discussion that we had on learning to unlearn. Well, that's the time that we have for today. And as usual, a thought provoking discussion with some deep insights. It's certainly given us plenty to ponder about the balance between exploring values and business growth. To our viewers, we encourage you to not to just keep these ideas to yourselves. Share this episode with friends, colleagues, and family. Ask them what do you think, spark a conversation, and see where it leads. And we love to hear from you too. Join the dialogue on our social media platforms. Share your questions, your learnings, and the insights you've gained from this episode. It's through these shared experiences and perspectives that we all grow and learn. So don't hesitate to reach out and contribute to this ongoing conversation. Your voice matters in shaping a more ethical driven business world. And as usual, feel free to WhatsApp Vivek and me. That's where we always get our feedbacks from. So don't hesitate to reach out and send us that WhatsApp. Well, that's it we have for today. Join us next week again for another enriching episode of Life.EV, where we continue our exploration into the fascinating world of exploring values in our lives. Vivek, thank you very much. As usual, it's invaluable with your contributions every week. We are looking forward to diving deeper into these critical discussions in our next session. See you next week, where we'll unravel more insights and perspectives. Thank you for listening, and remember to reach out to your friends and get a conversation going on life exploring values. Thank you, Vivek. Great to have you, and
Thanks,
see you
Steve.
next week.
My pleasure. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.